Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien speaking on Monday, February 4th. Me and Bubba here are looking at today. It's not too cold and not too warm. Day after the Super Bowl, everybody's got a hangover. Patriots won. Yeah. So some people would say yuck. But, could have been worse. It could have been the Saints that were there and they would have won, and you would have had when the Saints come marching in playing all over the place. But anyway, I want to do a video today and call it the Law of Unintended Consequences. Uh, I saw an article by a reporter from Roanoke, Virginia. His name is Dan Casey, and he was writing about fairness. Uh, People that were complaining that some of their cable outlets don't have MSNBC and others don't carry Fox. Well, I asked him about CNN, and he wrote me back and he said that it's more complicated than that. It's to do with the fairness and the FCC ruling on that in 1987. Well, Mr. Casey, it's actually simpler than that. It's the law of unintended consequences. And your country has suffered with this law ever since you were born. You just don't get it. You do things and you forget about the unintended consequences. First, let's start with your Declaration of Independence. Poor Mr. Jefferson had just written it, and the ink hadn't dried yet, and people were growling at it. So I think it took them, 5 or 6 revisions before they actually settled on something. And then it has a bunch of lies in it. All men are created equal. Everybody is entitled to inalienable rights by their creator. That's a bunch of hooey. And you know it. Everybody knows it. There's no such thing as inalienable rights or created equal. They weren't then. Heck, not even all men could vote. There were certain types of men that could vote, others could not. Blacks were not allowed to vote because they were slaves, and women, well, you know them. They would boss you in the house, but you couldn't boss outside, right? Well, and the other guys that were out there, they didn't vote because didn't count. Heck, the African Americans only counted 3/5, remember? The Constitution didn't do any better. You watered that down so much, it's not even funny. Heck, the first 10 amendments, they were a joke. They were considered federal. The first two, the first and the second, the Congress didn't even try to vote for it because they knew it would be a free-for-all. Can you imagine today's Congress voting for the first and the second? Woo! And you think the wall for Mr. Trump has problems. Try to get the first and second approved on Congress today. Anyway, but the 14th is really your pain in the neck one that really cost you problems. The 14th Amendment cost you to have companies as people. And it dwindled the rights of the people, especially African Americans. As you notice, the Jim Crow laws, if you watered down that amendment like they did in the 1870s through about 1910, you watered it down so much that it's a joke of an amendment. And then you have companies that came out of there, Vanderbilt's, the J.P. Morgan's, Henry Ford, Carnegie. I mean, they were all super companies. Standard Oil, remember that from Rockefeller? So you see, Mr. Casey and Americans, you guys are your own worst enemy. You forget about the law of unintended consequences. In all these subsequent amendments that you have written to the Constitution, unintended consequences. Hey, look at Roe versus Wade. That's still a firecracker of a thing, isn't it? The ERA is still out there, and you thought it was dead. And now you got the wall with President Trump, and you got Congress and the presidency. You're destroying your country. And look at your 14th Amendment. It allowed companies to be ahead of people. People no longer matter. It's companies and money. And then you got technology. You use it for profit. Oh, I'll invent this and I'll get a lot of money. To heck with it's the law of unintended consequences that it causes. I.e. iPhone, your televisions, your cable. Remember we had free TV at one time? Well, you don't have free TV no more. So you see, Americans, until you get a grasp on the law of unintended consequences, your society is going nowhere at all. Period. Thanks.